Alright, so continuing on with this thump mat, or carrick mat if you will. If you're following along and making one of these, you should be looking something like this. Now I know from the mats that I built, and here's one out of 550 Paracord, that 4 turns is a good length, or a good thickness to get the size of mat that I want. So that's what I'm going for. I started with 15 feet of Paracord, and I know I can make one that's 4 thicknesses, and it'll be a good size. If you look, here I've got 4 thicknesses, but here I've only got 3, and I've nearly run out of cord here. So what I want to do is snug this up a little bit. And in order to do so, you start from the beginning of your cord, and you simply pull this all the way through. So I'm going to start with this cord, and I'm just going to take out slack as I go, and think of this not as tightening, but rather just snugging a little bit. You do not want to tighten it at this point. You will probably mutilate it and completely lose its shape if you try to actually tighten it at this point. Now, when you begin this process, you're going to notice that this is going to get worse before it gets better, because once you start snugging up, you've got part of it that isn't the same shape as the rest of it, and it'll just look kind of funky until you get through it. So, like I said, you just start at the very beginning of it, and you slowly work your way through the entire knot. So I just made it one revolution around my knot, and I'm just going to keep going, and as I go, things will start to mesh up a little bit more, and it'll begin to look congruent again. You'll see that I've only made it a little more than one turn around, and I've already got a fair bit of slack there that I've taken out. Just make sure that as you tighten, you don't over tighten so as to make your cords no longer line up properly. So you do want to keep everything laying flat and laying in order. That's why you'll see a lot of times I just put my hand down over the whole thing when I do this, so that everything will keep its shape, and you'll see its shape start to improve, and it'll start to get a little smaller as you do this. And this is one of those projects where you do typically have to make a few trips through to snug everything up and finish it. So it's not really a knot you tighten all at once. I think in the knot world this would be a knot that you have to dress, so you do it kind of slowly, little bit by little bit. You can see now how much slack we're getting out of this, and sometimes you make one pass through and it'll give you enough slack to finish your 4 turns. Sometimes that's not the case, and you'll have to go through and again pull slack out of it to get yourself even more working cord. You can see now really how much cord I've taken out of this, and yet you can still tell by looking at it I have a lot of gaps in here to take out. So now that I have a little bit more cord to work with, I can continue weaving this in my knot. And just remember that where your beginning strand is, that's your start and finish point. So that's kind of where you gauge how many more turns you have to do, is by each time you pass that. And I'm actually on my last time around right now, so I need to make it back to here in order to be finished with my turns, at least. Alright, now my cord will come around and passes my start finish point. And now, if I just hold this in place with my finger, every single point in my mat that we look, I've got 4 turns. So now what I want to do is I just want to take the slack out of this to bring the size down to roughly there. And it's going to be the same process I just did, starting from here and slowly taking the slack out all the way around the entire knot. And this end, if I were to judge by this mat that I made, you're probably going to have a couple feet when you're finished with it. So I'm going to go ahead and snug this up. I'm going to turn the camera off, and once I've got everything snugged up, we'll turn it back on with another video just to take care of these ends and show you what to do with those.